Stephanie McMahon is headed to the WWE Hall of Fame. Stephanie Vaquer is the new Women's World Champion as AJ Lee makes her in-ring return. Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of No Holds Barred. Rob Wong and Postmedia wrestling writer Jan Murphy with you. Pleased to be joined again by our friend, WWE Superstar Nattie Neidhart, whose book, The Last Heart Beating, From the Dungeon to WWE, is set to release October the 28th. Nattie, we're just a little over a month away now. How's everything going on that end?
I've been so busy. I do this to myself where I'm like, I just want to do everything. And then I like sign myself up for everything. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe how much stuff I've got going on because, I am about to launch, something associated with the book. I'm giving you guys both the hint. It'll involve me traveling across the country, across parts of Canada and parts of the United States to work on stuff related to the book. So you both can take a guess internally and guess what that is. But I've been so busy. The book, I mean, we're 1 month away from it being, on bookshelves, and I am so excited for everybody to read this book. I have poured my soul into this book, and I'm really like, it's funny, I was talking today to somebody about just getting started. And I was like, it's so scary to take those first steps. Like whether you're in a new relationship or you're in a new job or you're in, you're starting something like for me, for example, writing the book. I was like, just start somewhere. I didn't even know where to start. And I was like, I'm just gonna start somewhere. And it was scary at times writing the book because I didn't know. I was like, I don't want to offend this person. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to give my authentic story. I don't want to, explain it wrong or be misinterpreted. And then, it's funny, I got really great advice from Becky Lynch. Becky was like, just put your thoughts on paper and don't worry about what anybody thinks. Just put it down. And then you can go back when you're done and look at it as a whole. She's like, but you just got to get started somewhere. Just get started wherever you feel like you just can dive in. And then Bret Hart had given me some really good advice because Bret and Becky have both written New York Times bestsellers. And so Bret said to me, he's like, write the book for you. Write the book for you and you only, and you cannot go wrong. He's like, if you write it for yourself, you can't please everyone. And so if you can focus on pleasing yourself, you will not go wrong. So I've kept Brett's words and Becky's words in the back of my head when I was writing the book. And now that I've got like a copy of the book in person, like they sent me a copy of the book like a couple weeks ago, the actual book in my hands. The publisher sent it to me, and I sat down on my patio with a glass of rosé and I read it, and I really am so proud of the story. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to be offended that, like I was able to speak my truth. Also, what was really cool is that it's not a WWE book. But WWE was just they were really supportive of me, like so supportive, so incredibly supportive. And I just appreciated that so much because, it's a big, like for me, it takes a lot of courage to go out there and just tell my story and to share things that I've never shared before and be like, let's just do it, and I love the story now more than I did when I was writing
You've seen some
it.
you and I we've talked over the years a lot of different times about what stories maybe could one day end up in a book or be told in an interview. And I know for a long time there was that struggle with protecting yourself from getting in trouble for
Yeah.
going public with some stories or just maybe your feelings about certain subjects. But
Yeah.
this must be freeing for you to finally put some of this stuff out there.
And it's funny, when I was writing the book, I kind of realized that while writing the book, I really kind of started internally, without even like intentionally doing it, I was starting to build the new character that I've been building outside of WWE. The book helped me bring that character to life. When people saw me at the first Bloodsport I did in April, and NWA in May, and Reality of Wrestling in June, and of course I did Bloodsport again in the summer in August, and then what I've been doing in AAA, like this new character that I've been allowed to bring to life, a lot of it came from writing the book. It was a very freeing feeling because even when I was a kid growing up, I've always been such an overachiever. I was always trying to get straight A's in school. I was always trying to be what everybody wanted me to be. And whether it was my family, my teachers, my bosses, even when I was working at a restaurant, I wanted to be like the perfect employee. And then I came to WWE and I wanted to be perfect for everyone. And, after writing the book, you realize like perfect isn't normal and it's not good. And people need to embrace their imperfections. They need to embrace things that like make them different and make them unique. And also like all the things that I went through in the book, they were so important for me, especially in building this new character. Nattie, that character that we've been seeing outside of WWE, I could never be her without the stuff that I went through in the book. It was the most therapeutic experience to let go. It's like, it's funny because sometimes you'll see headlines and it'll be like, Natalya said that she was scared. And it's like, and I feel like they're alluding to like, she was scared of people in WWE. It's like, no, I was scared of failing my entire life. And when I got to WWE, I was even on the grandest stage of them all. Of course, I was scared of failing. I was scared of, I never wanted to get in trouble as a kid. I wanted to be perfect for my parents, perfect for my teachers. And of course, in WWE, I wanted to be perfect for whomever it was my bosses were. So it's interesting now that I don't feel that pressure anymore, especially 18 and a half years in. I'm like, I want to do great and I want to be great, but I also want to be me. And this is me, and it's not going to be perfect. She's going to be a little rough around the edges, but I just want people to know, that's one of the big takeaways of the book and just of this new character, is that like you just got to be you. And like you see women like Rhea Ripley, talk very publicly about like when Rhea was fully able to embrace who she felt she was inside is when she started doing her best work. So there's a lot of strong messages in the book. The one thing I also encourage for people to do when they read my book is I don't want people reading the book like jumping to a chapter. You got to read my book from page 1 to the end. And you got to read it like, you can't just jump to chapter 6 and then understand, like you'll miss, there's a storyline in the book. It's actually like, it's a biography, but it's also a very deep storyline, and that's what makes this book different because it's laid out very cinematically. But if you jump around, like if you're, for example, if you're Michelle McCool and you're reading the book and you only jump to the chapter that you're in, you're going to miss so much of what like the actual book is about. Because again, example with Michelle McCool, she is such a unique part of my story in WWE because she was my first rivalry. When I got called up to SmackDown, she was my first rivalry. So, and then we had like our story and our relationship and our bond and our work in the ring. It's very layered. It grows throughout the story. But same thing with like my dad. I dedicate the book to my dad, but at the same time, like we have a very complex, complicated relationship. But he's like a massive character in the book, and he's one of the great loves of my life. Same thing with TJ. There's one chapter, Jan and Rob, that's called That Little and that little is TJ. So I'm giving you guys some spoilers, but I'm also getting you excited for the book because TJ was that little that I ended up being with. He's like the only love of my life, the one and only. But we've been together for so long. I've known TJ since I was 10 years old, but he was a little to put it mildly.
Yeah, look, we're super excited about this book. You've talked to us about it plenty of times, and it just gets more and more exciting every time we hear about it. And we're a little over a month away, so it's going to be here before we know it. I wanted to talk about TJ in just a moment, of course. He was one of the producers in the AJ Lee match and her return at WrestlePalooza against Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins with CM Punk by her side, of course. And I know, the role of producer, I think people that are wrestling fans, they've definitely heard about it before, but maybe don't have a great sense of what exactly those people do. What can you tell us about that side of the business as far as the role of a WWE producer?
Well, producers do so much. They're really the unsung heroes, in my opinion, of WWE. They're the first ones at the building. They're the last ones to leave. They're in so many different meetings where they're collaborating with upper management and they're bringing ideas of talent. They're like the liaison between talent and management. But they're also, so many of them, a good portion of them are people that used to do this. In WWE, you have Jamie Noble, you have TJ, you have Adam Pearce, Abyss, who, his real name is Chris Parks, but you have Ken Doane and Petey Williams and Jason Jordan and Shane Helms, and the list goes on and on of Bobby Roode. Like they used to be wrestlers, and so what I love about the producers is that they know what it's like to perform. They're not just guys in suits that are telling people what to do. They've been in the trenches. It's also what I like about having Triple H as like one of our bosses, because with WWE now, it's not just, we don't just have one boss. We have many bosses, but in his role, and again, I'm not saying he's perfect by any means, nor am I. But what I love about Triple H is that he was a wrestler. At his core, he was a wrestler. So it's so cool because, like, again, you look at Vince and you look at Hunter, and they both have different, because I worked for Vince for 15 years, and they both were very, very, they're very, very different. But the thing about Hunter is that he knows what it's like to, you come back from an injury and what that's like. He knows what it's like to be struggling, where you're like, I need to pitch this or fight for this, or suggest that, or when to step back, when to step in, when to fight for yourself. Like, whether it's ideas, whether it's matches, whether it's storylines, like, he understands. Same thing with Shawn Michaels at NXT. You can't say that Shawn, his body of work is just, but he's also a producer. So Hunter works with people on their matches. Shawn works with people on their matches. TJ was a producer for the match for AJ and Punk and Seth and Becky. But I will say, there were several producers that worked on that match that really helped bring that match to life. So TJ was one of several. I would love to give TJ all the credit because I think he's amazing. But he was one of
That little
several.
shit.
I think they had several people working with them on that match, and it's great because when somebody is coming back, AJ in her Instagram post, she talked about, like, hey, I haven't done this in 10 years. And she said in her Instagram post on, I think it was a couple days after the match, she was like, I was scared. She said she was scared. She said that she hasn't done this in 10 years. Like, I appreciated that she was self-deprecating, because it's not easy coming back from hiatus after 10 years. It's hard jumping back in, and like, it's hard whether you have four producers, one producer, whether you have rehearsals. I know that the company did, I feel like they did everything they could to make her feel comfortable, and that's great. Like, to me, the more comfortable all of us can feel, whether you've been gone for 10 years or whether you're an active part of the division, that's when we do our best work. So they gave her all the tools she needed to succeed. And then she was able to go in there and feel comfortable, confident, safe, and in a space where she could bring her best work. And that was great to see. And TJ, I think the big thing with TJ that I see with a lot of the girls matches, is that and it's not because he works mostly with the girls, but he's a very big cheerleader. He tries to give people a lot of confidence before they go out there, because great coaches, great, producers, essentially, in some ways, they can be coaches as well. Um, they give you confidence, and they make you believe in yourself, and they make you feel that you can do things that are hard. And so I saw TJ do that with AJ. I saw him do that with Nikki Bella. I've seen him do that with Trish Stratus. And it's really great. It's very admirable, because it's so easy to tell people the things that they're doing wrong, but sometimes it's nice to feel the things that we're doing right. It feels good when you get somebody that tells you, hey, you're doing this great.
Boy, wrestling is weird. 2 years ago, if you'd have tried to envision a night on the same card with John Cena versus Brock Lesnar and AJ Lee returning to team with CM Punk,
I
you'd have
know.
been like, there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. Rob mentioned it earlier. The Undertaker made a surprise appearance to come out and announce Stephanie McMahon. Kind of surprised her. This has become the new thing, to surprise people with the Hall of Fame announcements, especially if you're part of the empire that sort of built this all. For me, Stephanie McMahon absolutely is a bona fide Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
I've seen varying opinions out there from people. Well, she doesn't wrestle, and well, she has wrestled, but she was a very important character in the Attitude Era, but what she did behind the scenes and what she did for women in wrestling, I think, is what people won't truly understand, but probably why she is being, immortalized the way that she is. I mean, she did some great stuff on screen, wonderful character, but behind the scene, this is a power woman who created
Yeah.
opportunity for a lot of people, right?
And that's the thing, is that like it's always going to be tricky for people that are in, that are either married, or their dad was, Stephanie's dad owned the company. There's it's always tricky, because you're going to be, from the very second that Stephanie McMahon started her career, she was already behind the eight ball, so to speak, because people will be like, well, she's getting everything because of her dad. She's only getting this because of this. She's only getting this because of this. But at the end of the day, when you look at her body of work and the important and significant storylines and feuds and rivalries, even her match with Brie Bella at SummerSlam, I watched that match. She crushed it. She did amazing. Her match, it was Stephanie and Triple H versus Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey. It really was one of the best, if not the best, mixed tag that I've ever seen. And Stephanie was a huge proponent in that. Like, she knows how to, she can go when she needs to go, but she also knows how to be the heel, be the bad guy. Not everybody wants to be the bad guy. She was okay to lean into it, and so when I first started in WWE, Stephanie was working a lot behind the scenes, and I always felt in my heart of hearts, and I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. I always felt that Stephanie wanted more for the women in WWE. I always felt that way. She was always there. You could always talk to her. She always made time for me. Like, and I said this to her. I said this to her at WrestleMania, when the WrestleMania that Paul Heyman got inducted. It was a Hall of Fame, and she was wearing the ECW hat. I saw her backstage, and I hadn't seen her in a while, and I pulled her aside, and I said to Stephanie, I said, what I love the most about you is that you always make time for everyone. She knows everyone's names. She'll be in the middle of something, and she'll stop and talk to me and ask me how I'm doing, or like just have a personal conversation, when she could very easily go, hey, I can't right now. Like, she's just a very good, I love Stephanie. She's always been there for me, but I think that, like, yeah, liking somebody on a personal level is one thing. You can't deny her body of work, especially when you look at like what she's done in very pivotal moments in the company. She was a huge catalyst, and even when I look at the at one point she was the GM of ECW. Remember when she was like the one that there was the invasion, and Shane had WCW and Stephanie was ECW. And I look at, like, she's done a lot of really cool stuff. She played the ultimate bad girl. She was a huge catalyst in so many things. So yeah, she definitely deserves it. She's done a ton of community outreach work. The money that because Stephanie was the one that wanted to do the Connor's Cure, which is she was the person that spearheaded Connor's Cure. They have raised millions and millions and millions of dollars for kids with cancer. She was the one that started that. So many kids had resources because of her wanting to start something for kids with cancer, and it took on a life of its own. So the stuff that she does behind the scenes, I think, might even be more significant than the stuff that she's done in front of the camera. Which, she can slap people too. She's been known for her slaps.
You kind of touched on it there. I think the best way that I could put it is Stephanie McMahon had to overcome being a McMahon, because you talked about it. A lot of people would suggest that it's nepotism and she had everything given to her, but she had to overcome that at the same time, and sort of earn her own respect, which I think she did, and she has.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that Stephanie likes that challenge. And that's the thing, is that I've said that to people that, their kids want to get into wrestling. And I've said, like, listen, it's going to be even harder for them, because they're going to have to, like, work harder than everyone else. They're going to have to, they're going to have everybody saying that they only have this because of their dad or their family or and so certainly what was a door open for her. But, like, I think that from what I understand, Vince made Stephanie and Shane learn every aspect of the business. Like, he was very much, you got to earn it. And I think you see that in their character. Like, Stephanie's, so much about family, and she's so much about her girls. And she's just like I just think she's a great person. When my dad passed away, we had a funeral within 4 days. Stephanie was there. She flew to the funeral. She was there when my dad died. came to a funeral with, as my whole family was there. It was a very intimate funeral, but she talked to everybody. She was like the last person to leave. She took, some people wanted to take pictures with her, and it's Stephanie McMahon, and she was there for me during like the hardest time in my life. And it's just one of those things that I won't ever forget, because you see that she's got a million things going on, not to mention that she's a mom of 3 kids. And at the time that my dad died, she was very involved in the company, and she was there for that funeral, and she flew into a small little city in Florida, a very remote location. And while my family, was going through this very difficult time, she showed me that she's a person of her word. And so from one woman to another, it would just meant everything to me. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, very well said. And as you both have pointed out, the body of work is definitely there for her to get this honor coming in next year in 2026. Lastly, Nattie, a great week to be named Stephanie in WWE. We just talked about Stephanie McMahon, but of course, Stephanie Vaquer, the new Women's World Champion, beating Io Sky for the vacant title. What did you think of the match? And now with Stephanie as champ?
Well, first of all, Io Sky makes everybody level up. So I will come right out and say that Io's work is outstanding as far as just being super consistent. And so Io, like the fact that Stephanie beat Io, I know they're both good guys, baby faces, as we say in the industry, but I think that like their energy matched their energy, like energy matching energy. I think personally, the girls stole the show. I'm biased because I'm a female wrestler in WWE, but I thought they both did amazing. I was so happy for Stephanie. And I think, looking at Stephanie cutting the promo on Raw, like I know it's really hard for her to speak because she has said before English is not her first language. So it's funny because like I think that sometimes you just got to get started. And Paul Heyman always talks about it, especially like behind the scenes. He's like repetition, repetition, repetition. And so I was really happy to see that Stephanie didn't, shy away from doing that promo on Raw, where she spoke about, her dad and she just dove in like, I'm the champion. And, she gave this very heartfelt promo. And like, as a champion, you do have to be able to cut promos, but seeing her speaking and trying her hardest and just breaking some ground there, I was really proud of that too, because like she said herself, English is not her first language. So I feel like she knows and understands that she really has to fully embrace this role as champion, and I think she's going to do that. And it was great that her dad got to be there. Like seeing her dad front row when she won the title, it was just like I could totally relate to how cool that must have felt.
There's some growing pains for WWE in terms of because its product is so North American, rooted. There are some growing pains I see on Raw and SmackDown with some of the international characters struggling with English. Right? I mean, it's an English product, in an English market, and they bring these talents from around the world. So, but I thought she handled her own. I mean, the match was one of the best women's matches I've seen in years. I have no problem saying that was the best match I've seen in the last 2 years. On WWE, it was awesome.
Oh, it was, and it was like you could feel their passion, and that's what I love is that they didn't have a really deep story because, as Stephanie had mentioned, and Hunter Triple H, Stephanie, and I know they talked about it after the fact, which was cool. They addressed a real situation, but Stephanie was going through like a sickness. She wasn't feeling good, or I don't know the particulars, but she was sick. So they couldn't build this really, really deep story on TV because she was not there or wasn't feeling well. So they told the story that night in the ring. And I thought they did what they had to do to make it compelling. And it was a great way to kick off, WWE's first night on ESPN, because the girls, I've heard Triple H say this before, but he's like, I don't want it to just be like, oh, those girls had a really good match for a girl. Like, no, they had a really, really good match for the entirety of the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was great. And the women are doing that in WWE. It's not just, oh, that was a great girls match. It's like, no, that was an outstanding match.
Really
So
was.
I'm excited to see Stephanie dive into some more matches like that with, maybe with a deeper story. Although, like I said, Io Sky is unbelievable. And I think she made, she just, everything that Io does, she just levels up, and she brings people up to her up to her level, and I think that Stephanie is going to be the same way. That whomever it is that she works, and I feel like her performances so far have been very, very consistent. So overall, it's going to really level up the Raw Women's division. Like, we're just going to see better storylines, better matches. Don't even get me started on Asuka being a.
Io's energy is tough to match.
Io's energy is tough to match. I will say that I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week on Raw. Lots of unanswered questions. It's like a page turner of a really good book.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good plug there. You got your book coming out in just over a month, Nattie. The Last Heart Beating from Dungeon to WWE, set to release on October the 28th. You can pre-order it now wherever you get your books. Nattie, thanks so much for doing this as always. We'll talk to you soon.